Hey everybody, welcome back to World History Class with Mr. Finn. Today we are taking a look at the fall of Charlemagne's empire, the Carolingian Empire. If you remember, we were looking at a time range, just so we have an idea of what we're looking at, let's just say around the year 500. We start to see the coming together of Germanic tribes and the old Roman cultures. And around the year 800, in fact 814 AD, again this is all AD, is when we get the fall of the Carolingian Empire. So like people had continued to try and put like kingdoms or empires together for this like 300-year period following the fall of Rome, and operated the exact same way that Rome had operated. So they'd have like a central government, and it would be a king who was in charge, or a strong man in the beginning who was in charge, and they would try and create this large-scale empire that would take over a lot of modern-day countries. So, for example, the Frankish kingdom was like, all of this, which today includes, Belgium and Germany and France and all these other places. So they were still trying to create a large-scale thing. However, around the time of Charlemagne's death, we are going to start to see invasions and invaders. One of the big ones, as we said last time, was the Vikings. We also had the Muslims, and there's another group called the Magyars, which I'll tell you about, but it's that's not going to be any quizzes, but still write it down for the notes. Invaders. These three groups. So quickly on our map, let me show you. We don't have to be super close, since again you can see basically where I'm talking about, and that's the more important thing. The Muslims, we know. We have seen the Muslims. They had come over. They were across North Africa into Spain. They continued to attack and trying to invade the southern part of this Carolingian Empire that was falling apart. The Magyars, just to show you, had come in from Asia, and they settled right in this area, which was on the eastern half of what would be this Carolingian Empire. And they, again, were another group that was trying to, eat away at this, this empire that Charlemagne had made. But again, the big one that we're going to look at today is the Vikings. And the Vikings are way different because they had never had any interaction with the rest of these people. So, for example, the Muslims had started over here, gone across here, but they had been around the Mediterranean. They had met the other empires like the Byzantine Empire and had battles with them and whatever else. I mean, they had knowledge of, the Mediterranean area and the post-Roman, Western Roman world. Same thing with the Magyars. They were coming in this area, and this would be part of, the old whole Roman Empire, so they would have been familiar as well. The Vikings are coming from way up here. And so the Vikings are coming from way up here on our map, way above where the Roman Empire had even existed. They don't know anything about it. They don't know anything about these different languages. They don't know about these kingdoms. They don't know about anything. They have their own religion, language, completely different culture, had never been around any of this stuff before. But they are going to begin in the 800s, coming out of the north. The Vikings are also known as the Northmen or Norsemen. I'll write that here. Norsemen. I'll be getting rid of my map in a second. But they're going to come out of this area, and they're going to hit in England, early on. They're going to find rivers that take them into the heartland here of the Carolingian Empire of Western Europe. And they're going to continue to attack and invade this area, and I'm going to tell you about the Vikings today a little bit, and then you're going to look up something on them. So for us, let's take a look at how really the Vikings are going to put an end to this, Carolingian Empire, and really put a stop to empires in general at this point for a long time, because they're going to make it almost impossible, and they changed the way that Western Europe operates after this. So let's take a look at the Norsemen, because again, we've heard about the Muslims. Magyars don't do too much, but the Vikings are our big culprit. The Norsemen from the north. What is their deal? All right, first, they have a complete different culture. That's important to understand. They do not operate the same way that people around the Mediterranean Sea had operated. They have a much different culture in the sense of what they view as acceptable and what their main aim or goal is. One of the big things with the Vikings is they're going to be what we know or what we would call their raiders. Now, what is a raider? You attack and take valuable things. It's kind of really what you do. You attack, take whatever's valuable, and then get out. And that's what they did. How do they attack and take these? A, by the way, just in case. It looks like an A enough. But this does say valuable. Just make sure they attack and take valuable things, and then they get out. How do they get out? What are the Vikings really good at? One of the big things that raiders in general have to have is a lightning strike in and out. Vikings are amazing. Ship. I'm writing too fast today, and all my letters are jumbled. I don't want to do another one. Builders. They're amazing shipbuilders. Actually, they're just amazing on the water. They're amazing shipbuilders. They're amazing navigators. They actually come to the Americas well before Columbus, if we have American history and know about Columbus. So the Vikings on the water are amazing. Now, here's the deal. Their ships are actually what allowed them to be amazing, and then their navigation past that helps them with that. So let's keep all our ship stuff on that side. One of the big things, their ships can go on what we call open ocean and doing that twice. More room. And rivers. That's really important. So their ships can actually travel on like 3 to 5 feet of water, which is not a lot of water. And each ship can carry like 50 men, and they can go on these rivers way deep into Europe. And so no place was safe is really the point. So they can go on open ocean out in the middle of the sea, but they also can travel inland on these very shallow rivers and get to everywhere in Europe. And what are they looking to do? Attack, steal what's valuable, and then get out. Here's another thing completely different about their culture. They are not afraid of violence. Not that they don't have morals, they just have different morals. Part of their different culture. / morals or ethics. What they believe is right, what they believe is wrong, things you should do, things you shouldn't do, right from wrong. The things that people around the Mediterranean Sea thought, this is right, this is wrong, can do this, can't do that. The Vikings had none of that. Vikings had their own morals. It was completely different. So someone in Europe might be like, hey, you can't do that. That's not right. And they're like, we don't think the same way you do, and we'll do that. So one of the main things that they raid and one of the main places they go is something that really throws off a lot of people in Western Europe, because part of this different culture, and I'll put it by morals, they attack monasteries. What do? They kill monks. They kill holy people. They're attacking the monasteries. This is crazy. You're attacking people of God, people of the church. For people in Western Europe, they would have looked at this and been terrified by these Vikings. Like, who are they? How, like, they are, a lot of times people said in Western Europe at the time, They're agents of the devil because look what they're doing. They're attacking these monasteries and killing these monks and doing terrible things, stealing these golden crosses and whatever else. So they just come in like a whirlwind. And here's the funny thing about the Vikings. They do this from around 800 AD with the fall of Charlemagne. They attack all these different people, all these different kingdoms in Western Europe. But then by the year 1000 AD, they stop. The Vikings stop. So it's like 200 years, 150 to 200 years of just coming in and attacking and taking stuff and then being rich and whatever else. Why did they stop, right? Here's the question. Why did they begin? Where did they come from? Why just in the year 800 did they come to Western Europe? Why didn't they come to Western Europe before? They, again, like I said, they had no interaction with Western Europe until this time. Well, the Vikings saw a rise in their population around the year 800. So what that means is they had more people. And with more people, here's the problem at 800. More people need more land. There was more men. They needed more land. There's not a lot of land way up north. It's very cold, not a lot of farmland. They could not, just wasn't enough land to go around. So what do? They go out on the open ocean looking to see where they can find new land, where they can find new opportunities, adventure. They can't stay up in the Norse land, because there just wasn't land and a lot of opportunities for them. As they come south, they realize, hey, look at this, we'll become raiders. Look at all this stuff, we'll attack, we'll take all these valuable things, this is fantastic. But in the end, really, what would they need? What did they really want? More land. So beginning around the year 900, 920 AD, before we get to 1000, Frankish kings, people that were living in this land said, hey, Vikings, how would you like some land? We will give you land and you can farm there and you can settle there and you can be, you can just be cool. No more of this. You're looking for land anyway. This is an opportunity. Take our offer. You can have this land and you can raise your family and everything else and whatever. And that sounds great. This was very on purpose, though. Remember, they have a completely different culture. They have completely different morals and culture. They attack monasteries and kill monks and blah, blah, blah. But something that we know is this word. Well, you don't know it yet, but I'm going to tell you. Assimilate. Assimilate basically is going to mean the Vikings become part of Europe. Think about it. I am a Viking. I go out there. I raid the high seas. I kill people. I steal things. I find valuables and I do all this stuff. But then I'm offered land and I settle down and I become a farmer. And now I'm farming. I have a couple of kids. I grow old and I die. Where were my kids raised? Right? Where were my kids raised? They were raised in Europe on that farm. Did they ever go raiding and kill all these people and do all this stuff? No. In fact, they were around a lot of people in Europe. So who did they start to value? Religion. God and the stories of Jesus and all of this Catholicism and Christianity becomes a big part of their life. All of a sudden, they have kids of their own. And their kids are just sucked up into Western Europe. They are assimilated into this culture. So what happens to the Vikings basically is this. They lose their culture. They lose their original Viking culture and morals because they begin living in Western Europe. And if you begin living in a certain place and you're surrounded by certain things, you assimilate. You get sucked up into it. You become part of it. So these Vikings actually become part of Western Europe. They are now, you would not be able to tell they were Vikings at all. You know, in one generation, 2 generations, you'd walk up and be like, hey, can you tell me about your Viking heritage? Can you tell me about the Viking gods that you used to worship? They'd be like, I grew up right here. I don't know. I guess my dad or my grandpa was a Viking and he was a raider and did all this stuff. But I was born on this farm. I go to church and I'm Christian and I don't know anything about I can't speak that language. I can't, I couldn't tell you anything about my religion. I couldn't tell you anything about anything because my culture is now Europe's culture. And so what happens is the Vikings don't get defeated. The Vikings don't get beaten. The Vikings don't, nothing happens to them except for they get land in Western Europe and then they become a part of Western Europe and they just get sucked up into it and that's what happens. But before we get away from the Vikings, you didn't have anything last time, so what I want you to do today, and we know what happens to them in the end, we see that they assimilate into Europe. Vikings, give me 5 facts. We do this every once in a while. I believe we did it with the Mongols a little bit ago, where you go ahead and take a second to look at this culture. Tell me about the Vikings. Give me 5 facts about the Vikings. You know some things that we talked about today, but I don't want to see those. I want you to see, how about this? For example, if you look up Vikings and fun facts and you see something about ships and you see what their ships look like, go ahead and you can even draw one of the ships and be like, Viking ships look like this. That would be that would be one of your facts. But this is an assignment to take a second before we move on and show you what happens after this. To take a second, look at the Viking culture because we don't get too much into it. It's not huge. It's not a huge part of what we're doing, but it is interesting enough to look at it. And then we break down what happens at this point. The idea of big empires kind of fall by the wayside because large empires can't protect all the people, basically from invaders and other people. So we look at a new form of operating a small area. So for today, though, give me 5 facts about the Vikings. Make sure you get it to me today for attendance and participation purposes, which you guys have been doing a great job of lately. And I will see you next class.